Okay, so welcome everybody. This is the virtual Valentine's card day event. I hope you guys are all as excited as I am. I'm a little nervous, but yeah, so without further ado, let's get started. Okay, can you guys see my screen? Oh, it might be, yeah, no, it's this one. I just wanted some music. Okay, so this is essentially kind of what we're going to be creating. It's very small, kind of cute. Is this too loud, or do I need to turn this down? Hopefully it's not. Just want some background music. But anyway, yeah, so what we're going to be creating is this cute little envelope. When you press open, it opens up. There's a little, like a little letter inside of it. You can write whatever you'd like. And then if you press reset, it can go back down. Also, when you open it, these cute little hearts go back up. And yeah, so can you guys all hear me? Yep. Okay, awesome. Okay. Okay. All right. So, first off, let's get our Visual Studio Code open. If you don't already have this downloaded, this is an integrated development environment, or an IDE. This is where you can develop most of your projects. There's a lot of different ones. There's PyCharm, specifically for Python, IntelliJ, VS Code. There is a paid version for Visual Studio Code, but I want the free one. So yeah, so I just opened up, essentially I opened up an empty folder, and you just select the folder and we have nothing in here. So the first thing we're going to want to do is, this project's going to be coded in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So HTML is hypertext markup language, and it's going to be the basis of what we have. CSS is actually going to style it, so all of these different colors, this text font, all of this, that is going to be our CSS, or cascading style sheet. And then for our JS, or JavaScript, that's actually when we press reset or we press open, there's actually a listener that is attached to each of these buttons. And if it's clicked, then it changes some of the classes, and we'll get into that later. But first things first, let's create an index.html. And inside of here, we're going to define our doc type as an HTML, and we're going to create what's called tags. So you have an HTML tag, and this surrounds the entire file here. We're also going to have a head. So this is going to have, it's not going to have any of what you see here. It's more so about the like the extra stuff. So you see at the top of here where it says virtual Valentine's Day card, that's put in the head. And yeah, I'm gonna keep the chat open so I can see that. Okay, and then last but not least, we're gonna have a body. So we need an open and a closing tag, and you can tell it's a closing tag because there's a / in here. So if, like, just with this, let's create a paragraph. So open tag paragraph, just the letter P, and let's say hello world. Now the cool thing about HTML is that you don't really need to deploy this in order to see it. If we just click on the file itself, you can actually see it just pop up here. So this is exactly what we're working on right now. If we change it, say hello world, I'm Katrina. If you refresh this, it updates automatically. This is all locally developed. So we will deploy this to a website so that you can see it online, but we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so first things first, we have this. We need to create an envelope. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create what's called an envelope wrapper. That's gonna go around all of the components that have the envelope, the opening and closing flap, the actual letter inside of it, the text, etc. So we can get rid of this. And what we can do is we can create a div, and we're going to set the class, which is how we're going to reference it in our styling, in our CSS. We can reference it as an envelope wrapper. And usually if you do a closing tag, I think this might be one of my extensions, but it automatically adds the closing tag, which is really nice. Okay. So inside of here, we actually want the envelope so that we can, so the envelope wrapper is going to be everything, and then the envelope is the actual part right here. So we can create a div class equals envelope. Now, if we want several classes, actually, I'm going to make this an ID because there's only going to be one envelope. But we're going to create a class and we're going to call it closed because we want our envelope to be closed when we first see it. This is important because later on in our JavaScript code, we're actually going to change this. And we're going to use this class to set in listener, and we can change the class through JavaScript. But for now, let's try refreshing. You shouldn't see anything because we haven't defined any colors and stuff. So actually, let's do that now. We're going to create another file. It's called index.css. And you can see as I'm typing here, like on the left side, VS Code already knows all the most extensions for languages. So let's say PHP is a language. For HTML, you can see the little one there. C is a language, CS, C#, CSS. It knows, depending on the extension, what language it is. And that can help with different highlighting as well for syntax. That'll come in handy really, it'll be really useful later. But for the style, we can grab our envelope wrapper just so that we can see something. And when we're referencing classes, we use a period in front. If we're, so you know how our envelope is an ID? Instead of a dot, it'll be a hashtag or a pound or whatever you call it. I know there's a lot of names for it. We're gonna have curly brackets, open and close. And let's see just so that we can see it. Height is 100 pixels. Width is 100 pixels. And let's do background color. Background dash color. This is American spelling, makes me a little sad, but make sure you don't add the U in coding. And let's pick red. And we cannot see it. Okay, what's going on? We have envelope wrapper, we're referencing it. Should be able to see this. Maybe it's color. I don't know where it is. Oh, okay. So, yeah, okay. So for this, we have our index.css file. We have our HTML file, but we don't have anything linking the two of them together. So for that, we're going to go into the head. We're going to do link. And then href is going to be where it's actually located. Since it's in the same folder, it's in virtual Valentine card, we can just do the name of it. So index.css, and you can see it has the suggestion here. And we also need to say what's inside of it. So for this, it is rel equals style sheet. There are other ones. I don't really know many other ones, but this is the most common one. And you close that, and links, you can see, do not have closing tags. Yeah, they're self-closing. So now if we refresh this, we should see our square here. Is everybody following along? Am I going too fast, or we good? Awesome. Okay, cool. All right, so yeah, we can get rid of this for now because we don't need it right now. So we have our envelope. We're gonna have our wrapper. If you refresh this, yeah, it'll go away. Next, we want the flap, and then we want the pocket. So the pocket, I'm pretty sure, is going to be like the outside part, and then the flap is going to be what's actually moving or opening up. So we create a div, we create a class equals flap, and we want it to be in front so we can actually see it. And after this, so not in the flap, we're also going to create another front pocket, and we want to be able to see this. Below this, we're also going to add the actual letter. So div class letter, and inside of here, we're going to want words that we can see. Otherwise, it's not really a letter. So we can create, let's do a paragraph. Yeah. So paragraph class equals, and we're going to have words. And we're going to do this line by line, just so that we can position it one after the other. So inside here, we can say, hello there. Afterwards, another paragraph, words. So the reason why there's a space between here, this is how you have several classes attached to the same tag. So this paragraph, its class is words, and another class is line 1. We're gonna have line 2, and we can copy this 2 more times. We'll have line 3 and line 4. You can say really anything cheesy. I was gonna go with like, you're the CSS to my HTML. Does anybody else have any like cheesy coding pickup lines they want to put in? Type them in the chat. I'll add them if you want. I'm gonna say love Katrina, and that'll be at the end. Okay, so if we refresh this, you can't really see anything. I know there's a lot of div tags, and the div tags are kind of invisible. Actually, if you click on here and you press F12 on your computer, I'm on a Windows, by the way, you can actually see everything that we've got down here. So it should be in elements. If you look in body, you can see our div, our class, like our envelope wrapper. We also have our envelope, and then we have the front flap, front pocket. So you can't really see it because it doesn't really have any dimensions that we've set. And then it's got our letter as well. The cool thing about this is you can see each of the lines, the classes, and what's actually happening. So when we code the flap opening and the letter moving, we will go into here and you can see the class change. It's going to be from closed to open. It's cool. And one thing is that if you're looking at one particular element on your page, there's this really handy dandy button. It's really small here. and you can click on something to inspect it, and it'll bring you to that line of code. Yeah, I use this a lot. It's really good for debugging, especially if you're looking at a huge website, it'll find it really quickly. But yeah, okay. So from here, so this is the desired outcome. We also want the little hearts that are coming up. Now, I know these look random. They're actually not going to be. We're going to code where they're going specifically. There are frameworks and stuff that have like random ways that the hearts can go, but we're gonna try and keep this simple. So below our letter, it's not in our letter. I think it's just below our letter. Then inside of here, we're going to create a class and we're going to call it hearts. And inside of here, we're going to have each heart. We're going to have heart. I'm going to label this A1. So this is the first heart. You can copy this 3 more times and just change the A1 class. That way we can reference each heart and we can change where it's going. But the universal class that we have as heart for the 3 hearts, we can keep the same shape and apply the same styles to it. And then below the envelope, actually below, I think the envelope wrapper as well, we want to create the buttons. So this is going to be where we can actually reset. And we're going to have, oh, actually no. So there's a tag that's called a button. You can click on it, and this is where we're going to add our listener in JS. Since there's only going to be one of these each, we can have an ID. We're going to have open. And inside here, inside the tags, this is the text that's going to show. So that when you click on that, that's what you see. And we're also going to have one that says reset. So if we refresh this, it's looking pretty rough. Not gonna lie, after you learn this, you're gonna realize how many websites are just mostly CSS or something called Sass, like SCSS. It's all styling. Most websites, if like you look at a blog, they're all gonna have the same format. It's just the different styles. So this is like the bare bones of a lot of different websites. I think that's it. Yeah, pretty sure that's about it. Okay, so without further ado, let's start with the actual CSS. This is going to be the main part of it. This is almost completely done. Yeah. So there are a couple tags that we do want to add up here. It's just good practice. It's to say like this is in English, what character set to use, resizing as well. So we have meta, we're gonna have the char set. We're gonna set it to equal to UTF-8. I don't really know what this means. Like it's just a specific character set, and it might mess up some of your characters if you don't use it. Depending on the language you're using. And then we also have another meta tag. It's going to be name equals viewport, content equals the width equals device minus width. So this is going to make sure that, pretty sure when you're resizing it, it's going to say relatively the same. And you can also do comma initial scale equals 1. You don't have to worry too much about this. This is just good practice to have these tags. Another cool thing, so it doesn't really change anything. You can see it in here. You'll actually see these 2 tags a lot. But we want to change the title here. Right now it just says index.html. It's not really fun. So let's create a title tag. I'm going to call mine virtual Valentine's Day card. And if you save that, sorry, I've got it on autosave, but if you save that, you can see it change up here. Everybody good so far? Yeah? No? Hopefully. Awesome. Okay. Great. All right. So without further ado, let's get into the CSS. So we have these two here. For the envelope wrapper, we're just going to set the actual height. It's going to be equal to 380 pixels. And that's it. We're not going to add anything else to this. But however, we are going to change the entire background of everything. Oh yeah. So if you refresh your page, you see that the height is automatically applied. So if we look here, you can see this is the envelope wrapper. And since the buttons are outside of it, it doesn't apply to it. So it's just pushed down. You can reference tags. I did have a little bit of issues with this earlier, but we're gonna change the color of the body tag. So if you just want to refer to a tag, you don't do a dot or a pound or a hashtag. You just say the name. There are very specific ones though. So if you start typing like random stuff, it just goes white. It doesn't understand what you're saying. And in here, we're gonna do the background color is equal. I have a very specific color chosen out, but actually, let's look at this. So I'm gonna send this in the chat. This is a really handy website that can be used to pick out whatever colors you want. And it gives you the hex code, it gives you the RGB value, or even HSL. I haven't used that. So I'm looking for a cute light pink color. Like for this one, this is kind of this color. So I kind of like that color. So let's copy this. You can paste it in right here. And you can actually see that it changes the color up here. So if we refresh this, the whole page changes. Actually, I want to kind of change this a little bit. It's a little bit too dark for my liking. Okay. What else? We need to do the actual envelope. Let's get started with that. Okay. So one of the things that we need to define is the position. We want the position to be relative to the envelope wrapper, which is its parent tag. That way, that height is still applying to this. I won't really change anything though. And we do want to specify the height and the width. So we want it to be 180 pixels tall, and the width is going to be 280 pixels wide. So still not changing there. We're also going to change what's called the radius. Now the radius is how curved, I guess, an edge is. So we're going to change the border bottom left radius. So specifically, the bottom left corner is going to be rounded by about 6 pixels. And we're also going to round out the right side. So for this, you can do border bottom right radius, also 6 pixels. To actually center this, right, we don't really want it on the left side. we're gonna use margins. Now, this is something that's really important. The difference between margins and padding is that, actually, wait. Yeah, okay. Here's a really useful kind of picture to kind of visualize it. So you have your object, right? Your object is going to be right in between the border and the padding. So the padding, whatever, or sorry, yeah, the padding is whatever is in between the border and the object. So the border is here, or sorry, the object is here and its dimensions. Then the padding is going to push it away from its actual border and other objects. And then the margin is how far away something's going to be. I feel like that wasn't really a good explanation. But I'll try to show you with the buttons a little bit later on. So for this, we want to make sure that the envelope is being pushed from both sides equally so that it's in the center. So the way we can do that is we can say margin left is auto and margin right is also auto. That way it's pushing on both sides equal amounts of distance and it should center it. Now remember, since we're applying this to the envelope, it's not going to apply to the buttons. So we'll have to change that later when we style them. We're also going to move the top. I don't really understand what this means. I think it just moves it a bit down. Yeah, okay, so it moves it 50% down of the envelope wrapper, I believe. So yeah, I'm not too sure about that one, but it's important to move it down. We also have the background color of the actual envelope. I'm going to use a predetermined one. So I'll put it in the chat for those who want it. This is the hexacode. If we refresh this, we can actually see what we're dealing with now. This is our envelope. Actually, it's kind of dark. I'm going to change that a little bit. I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna actually change it. Yep, it's fine. It's fine. Might change the background too then, just because it works. And then one other cool thing is box shadow is the shadow behind the div, whatever you're looking at, and it can add this kind of 3D effect to it. So it's very specific. I don't really remember like the order of these. We can look them up, but we've got 0, 4 pixels, 20 pixels, and then a color. So I'm gonna have it black. You can just type the word black. So if we look here, it adds this cool kind of halo. Also, if you look at our rectangle, you can see because we did the border bottom left and border bottom right radius, you can see the left and right are kind of curved, but the top is not. That's what we wanted. And that is all for the envelope. Now we are going to add some styling for when we hover, or just one actually. So if we do envelope and then a colon, hover, this is so that when we actually hover on here, we want to make sure it's clickable. So if we look at the example again, we hover over, our cursor changes to look like you can click it, which is accurate. Like when you click on it, you can click it. So for that, you just do cursor, colon, pointer. Make sure you have semicolons at the end of each of yours. And therefore, when we look over, it changes. Now for this, you actually, like you can click on it, but it doesn't do anything. That's when our JS is gonna come in handy. But yeah, let's continue styling. Let's start with our front. So a little bit below, we're gonna get our class front. We're gonna make the position be absolute. This just, I don't really, like sometimes absolute and relative isn't important. Sometimes it is to be relative to other objects, but for this specifically, we want it to just stay there in front. We're gonna give it a width of 0, a height of 0, so you won't be able to see it, and a z-index of 3. Can't really explain what z-index is. Let's look it up. Z-index, the order of overlapping HTML. Ah, okay, yeah. Okay, so when you have different layers on top of each other, so you see like the paragraph is on top of the rectangle, not like underneath it, the z-index comes in handy to see it. That's also why it's called the z-index, because it's the z-axis. Yeah. Okay. And then in front, we're also going to have the flap. This is going to be really important to actually open it. So we get the class flap with a period in front. And we're going to, let's create a border first. We're going to have 98 pixels. We're going to make it solid, and it's going to be a pink color. I will put it in the chat. Oh, it's the same color, sorry. So you won't be able to see it because right now it's right on top of here and it's the same color. And actually, if that's that color, yeah, I guess it should be the same. Oh yeah, because then when it opens, you can see it. Currently, you can't see it though. We're going to do border left is 140 pixels, solid, and it's going to be transparent. And you can copy this 3 more times because we're going to have very similar ones for the left, the right, the top, and the bottom, except the top and the bottom are going to be different. So the top is going to be 98 pixels, and oh wait, no, we already defined the top. You can get rid of that. And the bottom is going to be 82 pixels. This will be defining our shape. Yeah, we'll get there. And we also have transform origin. And we're going to try and change the top part of the flat. Yeah, I know this is a little confusing, sorry. CSS is very overwhelming in how much there is to learn. You don't need to know all of this, but I do think the margin, the border, and the padding, that's really important to learn. Okay, so now that we have the flap done, we're going to create the pocket. So if we look here, just want to see a little bit. So this is the flap here, and we want the pocket. I think it's this part. Not too sure. Oh yeah, okay. So if you refresh, this Z-index is making the front flap go on top of the words. So now you can't see some of them. This is when the envelope is closed. That's why it's important to have a bigger number. So below, let's create the pocket then. Make sure it's from a class. We're gonna do border left, 140 pixels, solid, and we're going to have it be not that color. So this is actually, okay, so I guess this is what we're doing the entire thing here. So this is for the left one, and it's going to be the same as the right one. So So you can copy this, paste it, and just change it to border right. If you refresh this, we don't see it yet because we don't have a width, I don't think. Okay. So if we look here, let's change the width now. Oh, sorry, not width, sorry. We're gonna have the border bottom, 90 pixels solid. We're gonna change the color a little bit more. So here is the code for that. Okay, yeah, so right now, I guess it just needed some time. I'm not sure why it wasn't showing up before, but this is kind of what we're looking for. And we want it to kind of move down a little bit. And we also want to round out the edges so it matches our letter or our envelope on the entirety. So we can actually go up to the border bottom left radius and border bottom right radius of the envelope below, and you can copy and paste that. And if you refresh, you can see it's really small. It slightly curves. Yeah. Okay, we will move this. I think we need a couple more components yet. Once the letter's in there, it might move it down a bit. So next part is the letter. So let's get the letter class. Inside of here, we're actually going to have the position be relative to the envelope. We're also going to create a background color. You can do white if you want. I'm gonna do a light, yeah, let's do white. Why not? We're gonna make it slightly smaller so that it's inside of the envelope and it looks like it's coming out. So we can do 90%. Because the position is relative, it'll inherit the width and the height from before. The height we will also change to be 95% so that it's not poking out of the bottom of the envelope or out the top. We're going to finish, we're going to have the top equal 5%. Honestly, W3 Schools is the best for explaining things. So let's look at here quickly. Okay, so we're just setting the top edge to be down from wherever its ancestor is. It's like, since we have a relative position, then the top makes the top edge move down below its normal position. So it's not right against the envelope. Okay, and here's our envelope so far. We do want to make it kind of smoothed out. So we can do a border radius, and we don't have to specify if we want it to be applied to all corners. So like padding on left, right, up and down, or top and bottom. You can just do padding or margin, border radius, but if we wanted specifically, you have to specify. Let's do about 10 pixels. Let's see if it kind of curve out a little bit. And then we need a box shadow. We don't need it, but it's pretty. So 0, 2 pixels, 26 pixels. I have this very specific RGBA. It's 0, 0, 0, and 0.12. I don't know if it changes anything, but you can see a very, very slight shadow. Actually, that might be the opacity. I'm not sure. But I can also copy that line in here. Okay. That's everything for our letter. Okay, so there is a concept of before and after a letter. It's a little confusing. I don't know why you wouldn't just add components, but there's this website called CSS Tricks which has really helped me in the past to understand like Flexbox or grid, or specifically like different CSS components like before and after. So for this, I guess it's like right before the element and also right after the component. Or the element. I don't really understand why you need it, but it's helpful in some cases. So in this case, we have a letter after part. We're gonna have the content be nothing. We're gonna have position be absolute. The top is going to be 0. Bottom is 0. Left is 0. And right is 0. I don't really know why we have this, but it might be useful to have later. Okay, what else do we need to do? Okay, so we have our letter. Let's get into the words now, then you can actually see it. I'm not sure why this is up here. We're looking at the pocket. It might be because we need to add a border top, and we're gonna push it down. 90 pixels, solid, transparent. Okay, yep, that was it. Yep. So that's kind of the top, bottom, left, and right. That's going to define kind of like our shape of it. I haven't really worked with it a lot personally. This is one of the first times I have, but it's useful, as you can see. But actually, okay, I'm gonna comment out the pocket and the flap just for now so we can see what our letter is doing. So inside of here, you see how our letter isn't centered? We're gonna use that same margin left and margin right. We want it to be set to auto, so it automatically centers itself. And you can see the words also automatically center themselves, or at least move with the letter, because it inherits all the styling from the parent class, or the parent element. Yeah. Okay. So from here, let's start with the words. So we're gonna have the position be absolute with respect to the letter. We're going to move it 10% from the left. We're gonna give it a width of 80% of the parent letter. Height is going to be 14%. Because it's gonna be really small. It's like each line of the word. And we're gonna give it a font size of 15 pixels. We can play with this as well. It really depends on us. And our font family, I want it to be, I don't like serif, so I'm gonna do Arial, Helvetica, sans serif. So our first choice is Arial, but if it can't find that, it'll do Helvetica. Otherwise, it'll choose any other font that it has that's not with serif. And we're gonna have the color be black. So if we refresh this, this is our first line. And yeah, since the position is absolute, we need to specify where each line is going to go. And remember, words is applied to all 4 of these paragraphs, so we just need to change the different positions. So this is gonna be really easy. For line 1, we're just going to move it from the top by 15%. So we're going to move it down 15%. So you can see it move a little bit there. And you can copy and paste this 3 more times because we're just going to move each line a little bit further down. Okay, since they're all moved from the top, we're going to do 15, 30%, 50%, I think it was 70%. And you can see it kind of reads like a letter. It's getting there, okay? Don't worry, this is actually going to move up a little bit when we actually click on it. But yeah, so far, oh, we can also, so since our letter is going to have that kind of envelope pocket on top of it, we can change the bottom, the love Katrina, we can change that to be text align to be center. You can copy that for both line 3 and line 4, just so that we can see it. Katrina might be a little bit too low, so we can play around with this. We can make it 65. We'll see how it goes. That's all of our words. We can start with hearts now. So, dot hearts. This is going to be the parent element. Let's get there. Okay. So you have position. We're going to make it absolute. Top is going to be moved down 90 pixels. The left is 0. Right is 0. And Z index, we're going to make it 2. So it's not as forward as our front, which was our flap, or our pocket, but it's going to be second in line. For each heart, actually, so you won't be able to see this, but for each heart, we're going to have the position be as absolute. We're going to have a bottom of 0, so it starts at the bottom, and we're going to move it to the right 10%. So you can't see it because we don't have any color yet, but for the before and after, still a little confused about this, but dot heart before and dot heart after, we are going to change the background color to be red. So you can do hashtag D00000, and that should be a nice red. We haven't defined its height and width, so we will do that now. Width is going to be 50, not 50%, 50 pixels. Height is going to be 80%. It might still be hidden behind these. From the left, we're going to move it 50 pixels. The top is going to be 0, so it's still at the top. And we're going to create a border radius, which is softening them to be 50 pixels, 50 pixels, 0, and 0. Now, this might be a little bit weird, but what we're going to do essentially is we're going to create 2 circles and a rectangle. That's essentially what a heart is in code. It's just 2 circles placed perfectly on top of the rectangle. And that's what we're going to create today. So we're going to rotate this -45 degrees and transform the origin to be 0, 100%. I don't remember what the transform origin does. I'll send this in the chat as well if anybody's curious. This is going to be the base plane placement. Okay, so it just allows us to change the position of the transformed elements. Okay, cool. And we still cannot see it. So this is going to apply to both the before and the after, but we also want to add some extra stuff to the after. So from left, we're going to have 0, so it's right across to the left. We're going to transform this and rotate it by 45 degrees. And the transform origin is going to be 100% and 100%. So we can see the elements here. Well, we can see them here. Oh, in elements, sorry. So we have all 3, and you can see that it has the style here. So I'm not sure where it is. Yeah, well, I guess we still have to define it somewhere. We have hearts. So we have hearts, heart, and then heart before, after. Yeah, okay. I wonder why it's not showing up. I wonder if I change the Z index. We were to change this, sorry, to 4 or 5. Oh, okay. We'll have to see it later. I'm not sure where it is, but it'll show up. I think there was also a couple things that I wanted to do with these two first. So if we uncomment these should fit over it perfectly. We want to have some code for when we want to open it and close it. And how we're going to do that is we're going to add the class open to our front flap. Or sorry, to our envelope actually. So this class is going to change from open and close. And based on that, we can change the flap. So right in between, actually, in between the lines and the hearts, you do open dot flap. We're going to transform it. We're going to rotate the x-axis 180 degrees. And we're going to have a transition. So this is where all of those pretty animations come from. Yes, we do have resources like Bootstrap, so you don't have to learn all of this, but I think it's useful and important to go through it just so that you know how it works in the back end. So we're going to create a function in CSS called transform. So we can leave that for now. It's going to take 0.4 seconds and the style is going to be ease and the Z index 0.6 seconds. So don't worry, we'll get to all of these. And we're going to define the Z index to be 1. And then also for closing this as well, the flap, we're going to transform it to be rotated around the x-axis to 0 degrees. And we're going to have a transition very similar to this. So transform 0.4 seconds, 0.6 seconds, ease, Z index, and we're going to make this a little bit longer, 1 second, and the Z index is going to be changed to 5. So when we look at this, right, when we click on it, the flap opens up, and then the letter moves up, and then the hearts move up. And then this closes back down. So 1, 2, and then 3. So we also need to animate the letter. All we need to do is move it up and down. So we can do open letter. And we want to change the y-axis. So transform, rotate the y-axis. And we want it to go, oh, sorry, we need a period, dot letter. -80 pixels. The transition, you can actually just copy from here. And we want the Z index to be 2 so that it's on top of the flap. You can still see it. And actually, let's copy the close flap. We can just change a couple things. So instead of flap, it's going to be letter. Instead of rotate X, it's going to be rotate, or actually it's going to be translate Y, sorry. Translate Y, or translating. That way it's not rotating, sorry about that. And that's an important difference because when you're rotating around the X-axis, it's going to flip up. If you're translating on the Y-axis, it's going to move up. And for the letter, the Z index is going to be 1 when we close it. And I think we get rid of the 0.06. I think that's for the open. Oh, I might have done that opposite. No. Yeah, I guess. So it hasn't really moved for this. Yeah, this is right. So we have closed flap is going to have 0.6. For transition, CSS, I haven't used it too much. I know about like the transform where you need it to go. 0.4 seconds is how long it's going to take. But yeah, there can be a lot of different aspects for it and what you're translating as well. It's like for this, you're transforming. So when you're doing the transition, you want to use the transform axis. And so for here, they're actually changing the width and they specify the time and stuff. Okay, we're still doing well. 7:06, is everybody still following roughly? Cool, awesome. Okay, that's good to hear. Okay, next part. Okay, so for when we're closing the envelope, we want to move the hearts back into the envelope. So we're going to do dot close dot heart, and we're going to change the opacity to 0, and the animation is going to be none, just so that it stops moving. So for each heart, we need to create an animation. And we can do that by using their second class, A1, A2, and A3. This is how we define them. So dot A1, we're gonna move it left 20%. We're gonna transform it on a scale of 0.6. The opacity is gonna be full 1. And the animation, I'm gonna copy this into the chat because this is a long piece of code. We're gonna create what's called keyframes, and that's gonna be how you make the animation. So you specify the percentage of time that it's taking, at what percentage, 0 to 100, and then in between there, at a certain point, you move it. Or you can scale it, or you can transform it. This is how video editing works as well. If you've ever worked with that, you can set certain keyframes and you can move the image or rescale it. And then once you have that, you can see that the computer is automatically moving it to that position at a certain speed, depending on how close or how far the percentages are to each other. So for this, we're going to create one called slide up and one called side sway. We'll get there though. The animation fill mode is going to be forwards. I haven't worked with this really, so you don't really have to worry about it. And we're gonna give it a delay of 0.7 seconds. Yeah. I think we can roughly copy this, and we're gonna do it 2 more times. So we'll have A2. Now pay attention, we're gonna change a couple things. So from the left, it's gonna be 55%. We're gonna translate it or transform it to be a bit bigger than the other part. The opacity is still gonna be 1. We're gonna change the speed though at which the animation is moving. So it's gonna be 5 seconds. The side sway is going to be 4 seconds. And we can still ease in and out. That's everything for A2. And then for A3, we want it to be 10% from the left, 0.8 scaled, and we can change the slide up to be 7 seconds, and the side sway can still be 2 seconds. We can change this number to be 6. Oh, sorry, and also same for A2, you want it to be 2 seconds, or 2. I'm not really sure what these are for. But these are animations. If you get into CSS a lot, you will probably need to know them, but for now, it's pretty good to just look at them right now. And now we're actually gonna define slide up and side sway, because right now they're not defined, we're using them as variables. So for this, we do at keyframes, slide up. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna define those percentages that I was talking about. So for here, at 0%, we're gonna move the margin left, it's just gonna be 0%. And then at 100%, we want it to be 50 pixels. So it's gonna start at the left and it's gonna sway to the right. Or, yeah. Oh, sorry, I'm doing this backwards, sorry. Not for slide up, sorry. This should be top. Because it's sliding up. Sorry, I was looking at side sway. So this will be top minus 600 pixels. So if you do minus whatever for top, it means it's gonna move up. And down here, we're gonna define keyframes side sway, and that's what I was talking about. So 0%, we're gonna have margin left, we're gonna move it back and forth. So 0 pixels to begin with, and then at 100%, margin left is going to be 50 pixels. So you can't see any of this right now just because like this is going to be when we open the envelope and the hearts are going to move up, but we will get to that. Okay, we're getting pretty close to done for CSS at least. And then we're going to do some JavaScript and then we're pretty close to being done. Or at least the debugging. So let's start with the buttons. Okay, so we call our reset class right here, the whole thing. And inside of here, we just want to align the text within them to be centered. So that moves over here. Now this is going to be long. This is a lot of the styling for the button. So dot reset and then the button inside that class. We're going to change the font weight to be 800. So the font weight is like how much boldness, or in Microsoft Word or Docs, Google Docs, it's the bold functionality. So if we refresh this, you can see it grow. The font style, we just want it to be normal. There are certain things you can do. If you want to see the options for it, you can always just press the colon and you can see all the different options. But for now, we just want normal. We want to transition it all 0.1 seconds and linear. The background color is going to be transparent so that it sees the background from here. Yep. We're going to have a border. It's going to be solid. It's going to be 2 pixels thick. And the color, I will paste it in the chat. So you could, in this line, border, you can separate these into like border weight, border size. I don't know the exact names, but just saying border and then putting in this line is just a shortcut for that. And we're also going to round that out with border radius. It's going to be 4 pixels. The color as well. So the color and the border are going to be the same, but the border, if you look at it, the border is going to be this color. When you reference the color, it's usually meaning the text. So if we copy this now, you can see the text also changes. The display, we're going to do an inline block. There's a lot of different styles, like I mentioned, Flexbox or Grid. We're going to do inline block. The font size, we want it to be 14 pixels. The text transform, we want it all to be uppercase. You don't have to do this. This is just one of the styles. And we want it to be pushed away from everything by 20 pixels. So it has a little bit of space. Now this is where margins and padding become super important. Did you see how the margin pushed it away from the envelope, but it didn't change the spacing inside of it? If we were to change this to padding, watch closely, it's going to change the space from the open word and the border. That's why it's so important. So margin, it pushes it away from anything outside, and you can see the border, the margin. The padding will be the border and the content inside. It doesn't have to be words. It can be like more divs, or I don't know, you can have a form in there. But yeah, that's why margin and padding are so important. We're gonna change the margin top. So margin, when you say that, it refers to all 4 sides. But I want the margin on top to be a bit more, just so that it's a bit pushed down from the envelope. Padding, we're going to apply it to all sides. We only want it to be about 10 pixels roughly. We can make it bigger maybe a little bit later. The line height is going to be 2 EM. So EM is a very specific, I can't remember what it stands for. It's just a unit type though. You know how we have pixels, we have percentage, we have VH or VW. EM. Oh, EM is relative length. So it's relative to the font size of the element. So 2 times the size of the current one. Yeah. I'll link this inside of here as well. Okay. So this is kind of just to make sure that there's no underlines. So you know on hyperlinks, when you click on them or when you first have them open, it can have text decorations like an underline. We can get rid of that. So text decoration, just say it's none. The min width of how big we want it to be, we want to change it to 150 pixels, and we want no outline. So if we look at that, so the min width, that changes how wide it can be. Yeah, and that looks pretty similar to our previous one. I think I need to change this background though, because this is kind of killing me. Background color. Yeah, it looks a little, maybe a little bit lighter. Okay, yeah, I'm happy with that. Sorry, I just really wanted to do that. Okay, that's everything for our button. Now, same as our envelope, we want it to be like when we hover over it, we want it to change to this cursor. And we can also add a little bit more for this. So we can do reset the buttons inside and then hover. And for this, we're actually going to change the background color because we can do that. And we want it to be, I don't know how this, yeah, okay, so we kind of want this highlighting effect where if we're not hovering over it, it doesn't have a background, right? It's just transparent as the back, but when we hover over it, it changes. We also want the cursor to be a pointer when we actually go over it. So it looks like you can click it. And we can change the text to be white because when we hover over it right now, we couldn't see it, but now we can actually see this. Yeah. This also helps. Like you see how I just use the class reset, which has both buttons, and then we're referring to the general button inside of there. That means it's applied to both of these at the same time, which I like a lot because it gets rid of repetitive code. Okay, I think one more thing before we actually start getting to just the VS Code, or sorry, the JS. I wanted to add this Happy Valentine's Day text down here. So let's add that quickly in here. Right below our reset, you can create an H1 tag or a header one. Headers, I think they go to 6, and it just depends on how big and how thick you want the weight to be, or the boldness. So you can say Happy Valentine's Day. So as you can say, without any styling, it's kind of ugly. But let's fix that a bit. I'm gonna add a class to this. Class equals, we just call it Valentine. And then down here, we can refer to it Valentine. So we want it to be in the center, so we can use text align. We can also change the font family because I really don't like it. Arial, Helvetica, Sans Serif. You can change it to be what you like. I just don't like serif very much. The color. I want to change this up a little bit. So you can click on this or hover over it, and you can change it depending on what you like. So I don't want it to be completely black. And then we can change the font size to be quite big, font pixels, and we want the margin around everywhere to be 150 pixels. That pushes it away from the buttons and from both sides. And there we go. So I know I did that a little bit fast. If you got rid of each of these though, you could see the effects on it. They'll change. If we get rid of the margin, you can see it moves up a bit. But yeah, please feel free to play around with this. This is by no means the only way to do this. I'd love to see any of your examples if you guys get up to it. It's a lot of fun. Okay, so that I think is it for our CSS. We're really close to being done, and then we're going to post this online and you can share it with anybody that you want. So we're going to create a new file. We're going to call it index.js, standing for JavaScript. And we're going to write it's called jQuery. So jQuery is a framework or a style of writing JavaScript, kind of like React.js or React Native, AngularJS, Vue.js. There's a lot of different ones. But in order for us to use the syntax, we need to go into HTML and jQuery. We just need to add it. There's a very specific line. Okay, let me see. Okay, I have it in my notes, so I will just send it in the chat. And I'll show you where to paste this. So here's the script. We're gonna put it in our header tag, or our head tag, sorry. It doesn't matter what order you have it in the head, it's okay. But we're getting the source from online, so we don't actually have to download jQuery to us. And that's about it, yeah. It's the script. Oh, and so you know how we linked our CSS to our index.html file? We also need to do the same with our JavaScript file. So after our Happy Valentine's Day, we use script to link scripts or JavaScript. Source equals, and since it's in the same folder, we do index.js. And that's about it. That's how we link it. Yeah, so nothing should really change. You can't really see any of it. But in index.js, okay, this is gonna get a little bit confusing, but let's do this, okay? So we're gonna have $, round brackets, document, and this is going to add a listener. So dot ready. We're gonna do function. We're gonna create a function, and round or curly brackets, we're gonna create some variables. So we're gonna get each of the variables based on either their ID or their class. Now, I don't really know jQuery too much, but this is how we're gonna select this. So this $, in native JS, it would stand for document.get element by ID. But this is a lot longer to write. This is what that's short for. And then you would get the element here and yada yada. This is just a shorter way. Like I said, it's a format. So inside of here, we're gonna get hashtag envelope. This is how we're going to grab our envelope object. We're gonna create a variable for our button open. We'll get it from the open one, the open class, and we're gonna get our button reset. And we'll select that through button reset because that's the classes we have for it. So when we click on the envelope.click, we're gonna do this function where we use our open function. Now we're gonna create our functions open and close, and we can reuse these each time. So when button open is clicked, we're also gonna call our open, and like you can guess, button reset is going to close it. Okay, so yeah. Oh, shoot, sorry, not round brackets. You want it to be a period. Sorry, button reset dot click and then get rid of one of the extra ones. Sorry about that. Is everybody following so far? It's going well? Hopefully. Hopefully it's going well. Okay. All right. So our two functions, we're gonna create open function. I love the enthusiasm. So there's only two things we need to do here, and then this is almost fully functional, or this should be fully functional. Okay. For opening, all we're gonna do, because we've already written all the CS, ready to watch the magic? Envelope dot add class open, and then tab once dot remove class close. Boom. We're going to add our class open when we click on either the envelope or the button open, and then we're going to remove the class close, and that will change our CSS, and those are all those fancy animations we were just doing. So if we refresh this, it's probably going to complain, well, so long as we don't click on the close function. If we click on it, it opens it up. Ta-da! Oh man, I love when this works. Yeah, so then below it, we're gonna create the function close, and it's like you can guess, envelope.add class close, remove class open. And that is our website. We are gonna host this online, so don't go yet, but we can open it, we can close it. We do have an issue with our hearts for some reason. I'm not too sure what's up with that. But let's see what's happening there. Okay, let me just look at my notes. We have this, we have that. For begin, before, after, okay, I might have forgotten a couple of things here. So for this, we're going to create the position is absolute, and we're also going to add the content is empty. We have left, top, width, height, border radius, transform. Let's try refreshing. Oh God, okay, something is wrong. Okay. Sorry, this is just funny to me. Yeah, okay. So, oh, okay, so I added a space here. Importance of spaces. There we go. That was the only thing that was missing. So that content and position absolute. Oh, that's funny. Okay. Yeah, so Billy, Mandy, 16475, is everything working on your end? If it is, we'll move on to like hosting this online, but just want to make sure everything's, yeah, we can go there. This is the full index.html. I'll also post the source code for this on our GitHub. That's how we're going to host it anyways. But yeah. Yeah, and so it's pretty similar. Like the only difference is the colors. Oh yeah. Oh, I guess oh, okay. So you see the box shadow? You see how the box shadow is way more harsh here? We can change that with that last little bit. 16475, are you good? Awesome. Okay, yeah, no worries. Okay, so if we go into index.css, we need to change the box shadow. I think it's of the envelope. I think it's this. Double check. Yeah, it is. So it's not just black. We're gonna do RGBA 0.0.2. So now if we refresh this, it's a lot lighter. It's not as harsh. You can still click on it. You can close it. The hearts do disappear like immediately, which I wish they didn't, but yeah, and you can change whatever you want in there. Okay, so hopefully all of you are on the same page. If you aren't, please let me know. But besides that, oh, you can see here as well, I have spelt something wrong. Initial, where did I put that? Oh, it's an index.html. Oh, here it is. Initial. There you go, and that error should go away. So we have this all working locally, but it would kind of suck if you had to display this to someone and say, hold on a second, let me just pull out my laptop. So what we can do is go to GitHub. We're gonna create, actually, we're not going to do it on GitHub yet. So in here, ooh, okay, so I don't know how to do this just on GitHub, but have people downloaded GitHub Desktop? Okay, okay, cool. So, actually, okay, so in our VS Code, press right click and press open in integrated terminal. Inside of here, we're going to do git init. I don't know if we have to add a name for that. I think it's just git init. And we have initialized our GitHub repo, and that's it. So we go to our GitHub desktop. You can press add, and you want to add existing. You can choose from your local path. What do I have? Virtual Valentine's card. You select the folder, you add the repo. You should open it up, and you should have the plus symbol, which means that you have like each of them added. And if you have GitHub Desktop, it makes it a lot easier because you don't have to know the very specific Git commands. But you should be signed into yours. I think it makes you sign in. It might be in options, yeah. And from here, you can create a commit, say initialized Valentine card. You can state what you wanted, added HTML, CSS. And you can add working as well. So you can commit that to the main branch. Oh yeah, sorry. Sorry. Yeah, I just did the commit. What part do you want me to explain? So I can kind of explain the initialization of the Git repo. So we did git init, just that, in the folder that we were in. That initializes this as a local Git repo. You have to make sure that Git is installed as well. If you don't have it installed, you just go to git install, and then from here, you can do either Mac, Linux, Windows. And then once you have git init, and it says that it's initialized an empty Git repository, you go to GitHub Desktop. So I've already done this, but if you go to GitHub Desktop, you click on Current Repository, you click on Add, And then since you have an empty Git repository already created, you can add existing. You find wherever your project is. It's like I had mine in virtual Valentine card. So wherever this folder is on VS Code, you add it there. And then it'll import it, and you'll have in changes, you'll have 3 new files, because when you did git init, it was just empty, just completely empty. It might have a .md, like a readme file, but these 3 files haven't been added to your repo yet. So what we did was down below here on the bottom left, the summary is the name of the commit. So I said like initialize the card, and it's working. You don't have to add a description. I did for this one. And then you press commit to main. Still with me so far? Okay. So now we have it set up where we have created a local Git repo. Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. You will have to sign in with GitHub Desktop. So like right now I'm signed in as cat9897, and then it'll ask you like you're essentially importing your Git repo, which was local, into GitHub Desktop, so that it recognizes it. And then I guess if you haven't worked with GitHub, you're pushing, so you have to do a commit first, and then you push it to the actual branch. So commit first and then push. If there are any changes on the branch that you're working on, so we're working on main. Usually it's bad practice to work directly on main, because if you make any changes and you commit and push, that can affect whatever your customer is seeing, or this is how businesses work with it. So usually you can create branches, like several branches for different development work. For the recording, I'm going to post this on our AMAX YouTube. We actually have one. It has a ton of review seminars, as well as a couple introductions to the professors. So I'll post that in the Discord. I'll post the link to the recording, and also on Instagram. I don't know where we'll add that, but you will be able to see it on our website as well, like amax.org. Yeah, we can also put it into our link tree for a little bit on Instagram, maybe for the next week or so. But yeah, so we have this, it's all local, and now we're gonna press publish repository. So it's gonna publish it to github.com. We're gonna name it virtual Valentine card. We can say a small, cute project using HTML, CSS, and JS to send to a loved one on Valentine's Day. You can uncheck keep this code private, not part of any organizations. And you want to make sure you're on github.com, not GitHub Enterprise. You have to pay for that, or it's through companies. And you can click publish. Might take a little while. Yeah, so if you want to see it now, you can, I love these little 3 shortcuts. You have open in Visual Studio Code, show and explore. I'm just going to press view on GitHub. It's the last one. You can see it in the browser. And it'll go to that repo that you had just created, and it's now linked to your account. So this is like the source code. If you want to see it, I'll send it here. I'll send it on Discord, on Instagram. I don't know how I'll do it on Instagram, but and on our website. You'll be able to see it on our website. I have to organize it a little bit, but you will be able to. Okay, we are so close to being done. All right, ready? So we're gonna go to settings, go to code and automation section and click on pages. And from here, we want to deploy from a branch, and the branch we want to deploy is main. This is the one we've just clicked, or just the branch that we had just created. Press save. And now we just wait. So it should be deploying. Pretty sure it should be deploying. We might have to automatically do it, but yeah, it says your GitHub Pages site is currently being built from main. And now we just wait. And our website's going to be up and running soon. Now, your GitHub website, the domain is going to be a little weird because it's free. This is completely free, but it's going to have like your username, .github.io / and then your repo name. So this test one here, it was cat9897.github.io / virtual Valentine card test. So we just have to wait for this to be deployed. It should take a few minutes. And then it's, if you click on here, there you go. That's your website. It works. It has all this. Send it in the chat. And you can share it with your friend or your loved one. Thank you guys so much for coming. I've really enjoyed this. I was a little nervous for this, but I really appreciate the questions, the comments, and the participation. If you liked this, please let me know. You can always text on the Discord, always ping me. I'm pretty on there everywhere. And also on Instagram, you can text there. We're pretty active. Yeah, let us know if you want any other kind of workshops like this. If there are any other projects you want. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much for coming. I'll be around for next 10-15 minutes, depending on if people stick around. But hope you have a great weekend and happy Valentine's Day. I'll stop the recording now.